Like I always request, and I requested yesterday as well, please do not switch off your phones. Please do not switch off your phones. You can keep them on the silent mode, but do not switch off your phones. We would like to stay connected with you. On Facebook, we are present as INFOCOM Connect. Do like us and get the updates. On X, with the handle INFOCOM Connect. Join the conversations and also post your pictures. You can tag us with your experiences. Sorry. Hashtag INFOCOMCAL 2024, and on LinkedIn we are present as ABP Infocom. So you can post your pictures and experiences and tag your colleagues. I hope all of you slept well last night. Did you? Can't hear it. Can't hear it. Yes, sir? Did you sleep well? I was literally so tired last night that the minute I hit the bed, I was gone. I was done. So, and then to be refreshed in the morning and come and actually serve all of you, this is what my intention is. I love to come on stage, and I've been doing this ever since I was 4 years old. Not this, not anchoring, but I've been acting since I was 4 years old. So back in Guwahati, in my city, I'm actually an actor, and I've been acting in serials and movies and what have you. I'm also a documentary filmmaker, and I've made a documentary on tea, which had gone to Germany in Bollywood and beyond, and it had been showcased there. And the title of the movie was, look at me, I've forgotten the documentary title. It was on tea, and I had made this was a chronicle on Assam tea, and the brew of the Eastern Clouds. Yes, I got it. Brew of the Eastern Clouds. I mean, I've been making so many documentaries, so it's very natural that I forgot. Brew of the Eastern Clouds, and this was showcased in Germany. So how many of you here, again, like I always keep asking this question, how many of you here are creators? Of course, we have come to an AI forum, AI conference where we can create with just the click of a button nowadays. But how many of you are creators, like as in writers, a poet, or something else? What is it that you do? How many of you are writers here? Poets, actors, singers? Wow. All right. Never mind. We all have a chance to start whenever we can. Because I will tell you that my life has just about started. For those of you who do not know, in 2019, I was actually clinically dead. And I got back, and I've got back with so much of force that, yes, now I've been told that I've got back with so much of force, we need to start now. So good morning, everyone, and we're about to start off with this showstopper session, AI in everyday life. And I think we have to accept it that AI is what we are going to have in the future, so we better get ready for it. I would like to request our speaker, I would like to request Rajat Shubhra Ray, Founder Director, Adamus Tech Consulting, to kindly come forward, please, sir. And a huge round of applause for Mr. Rajat Shubhra Ray, Founder Director of Adamus Tech Consulting. Sir, please.
A very good morning to everyone. First of all, I would like to thank INFOCOM 2024 and the ABP Group for giving me this opportunity to be part of such a distinguished session in the presence of Sana Khareghani. Sana, we are really honored by your presence, and on behalf of everyone, I welcome you to India and to Kolkata. My name is Rajat, and I am the director of Adamus Tech Consulting. We are a 4-year-old startup, passionate and dedicated to bringing about digital transformation in the education sector. We have developed few products, and we have also tried to leverage a lot of the applications of AI and data analytics to bring about a transformative change to the student teaching learning experience within our platform. We have tried to build in applications of AI and data analytics to give a personalized adaptive learning experience to students to identify the strengths, weaknesses, and give them that value addition. We have also built in a lot of data analytics to give predictive outcomes and predictive analytics to our students, so that the interventions can be possible during the learning journey. We have also tried to automate a lot of the education operations and bringing in a lot of intelligence that would drive value within the institutions. I think all of us present here today, we are all aware that AI, artificial intelligence, has brought about a transformative change to all our lives. It has impacted multiple industries, and I think it is time that we all adapt ourselves, we all open up, and we accept the changes that are taking place because of AI so that we can take the best benefit out of it. However, there are certain myths, certain misconceptions, and certain fears surrounding AI that we are all aware of, that we keep discussing, but there has not been any concrete conclusion or a discussion or a statement around that. And since we have Sana present here with us today, I would like to hear from her about some of the myths and some of the applications of AI on our daily lives. So some of the points that we would probably want to discuss is, first, I think we all ponder on the fact that we keep hearing that AI is going to replace humans, AI is going to replace human jobs. So is this really true, or is there a way where AI and humans can really coexist together in the workspace? Second, we always keep hearing that AI will develop themselves on their own without any human knowledge. So, and they're going to supersede human intelligence. So is this true? Thirdly, I think we all know that AI works better when given a lot of data, when given a huge volume of data. So where does that leave us in terms of data security and data privacy? And finally, I think the big question is, will AI really take over the world? I mean, will AI really become so powerful that it's going to outdo humans? And if this is even remotely true, what policies, what countermeasures are being taken to prevent such a risk? So to answer all these pressing questions on AI and to know a bit more on the daily use of AI on our daily lives, I will now hand over the stage to Sana Khareghani, and I'm really honored to introduce her to all of you. Sana Khareghani brings over 20 years of experience in technology and business across the private and public sectors. With a BSc in computer science and an MBA from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Sana has worked as a software engineer in big corporations and startups. As a management consultant advising Fortune 100 C-suite across North America, Europe, and Middle East. And also, she being the inaugural head of the UK Government Office for AI, leading the team to publish the UK's national AI strategy and invest nearly $1 billion in the UK AI ecosystem. Most recently, Sana, a professor of practice in AI at King's College London, and an ambassador for Responsible AI UK. A £35 million grant focused on seeding and connecting the international ecosystem for responsible AI research and innovation. Please welcome Sana, and I hand it over to you to carry forward with the session. Thank you so much.
Let's get my slides up. Here we go. Good morning, everyone, and it's a real pleasure for me to be here with you today in Calcutta at INFOCOM. And I am Sana Khareghani, and I'm here to talk to you about artificial intelligence. I always find to start off with that it's important for us to have a definition of AI to keep us all on the same page. So what do we mean when we say AI? What are we talking about when we say AI? I think, personally, that this is an incredibly unhelpful term. It is an umbrella term under which sits a whole host of technologies. So everything from auto-completing your sentences in an email or a text message, facial recognition that opens your phone or gets you into your banking app, finding the fastest route from A to B to avoid traffic, or the curated feeds that you watch or shop from or read every day online. Or it's the incredible breakthroughs like Google DeepMind's AlphaFold, for which the CEO, Sir Demis Hassabis, just won a Nobel Prize in chemistry. Or it's ChatGPT, which came into being 2 years ago. So you can imagine this is a massive number of technologies that we call AI. So they're all around us, these technologies. They affect how we do things at work. They affect how we live our personal lives. We each carry our pocket AI with us wherever we go, and if you don't know where it is right now, I'm sure you're looking for it. And at work and in corporations, people are always thinking, what should we do with AI? Do we have enough AI? What are our competitors doing with AI? And at country level, many of the same questions are being asked. Experts have trouble agreeing what AI means. I can tell you this for a fact. We went through a very lengthy process to get to an agreed definition for the UK's national AI strategy, and literally the next day, a whole different definition was codified and was used for the UK's National Security and Investment Act. So in the National AI Strategy, we wrote that government recognizes that there is no single definition for artificial intelligence that's going to be suitable for every scenario. In the National Strategy, we used this one. AI describes any machine that performs tasks normally requiring human intelligence, especially when the machine learns from data how to do those tasks. So, with that definition in mind, let's concentrate on today's agenda. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about AI through 3 lenses: the past, the present, and the future. Or, how I would describe it, a bit of history on how we got here, a little bit about where we are today, and then let's look forward and see what's coming next. I'm going to end with, what does this mean for you and your corporations? What might you want to do about it? And then some questions and answers, hopefully, after that. So, how did we get here? Artificial intelligence as a term was coined in 1955 by Marvin Minsky and a group of others. They thought that AI was a 2-month, 10-man study to figure it all out. That has obviously not been the case and is not the case. 1 month from now, the term artificial intelligence will be 70 years old. I argue, and I'm skipping a lot of summers and winters of AI, so summers of AI are when there was a huge amount of funding into AI and lots of universities got lots of money to do the research. Winters of AI when it all dried up. Nobody put money into AI and it wasn't fashionable anymore to do AI research. So I'm skipping over all of those. I'm also skipping over massive discoveries and advancements such as machine learning. Each of these individual advancements moved the AI needle forward a little bit. I'm skipping over that as well. But I argue that the big defining moment for AI in recent history was DeepMind's AlphaGo in 2016. This was DeepMind's game of Go that beat Lee Sedol, the world's Go champion. If you haven't seen the Netflix documentary, go and dig it out and watch it. It's really worth a watch. For those that don't know Go, it's an ancient board game that's played in China and other Southeast Asian countries. There are essentially black and white pieces, and you take turns placing them on a board to win territory. And at the end, whoever has more territory wins the game. So it feels easy, the rules are easy, but it's an incredibly difficult strategy game. Children actually go to school to be taught how to play these games, and there are championships. And Lee Sedol was the world's Go champion, and he was incredibly famous. And the moment that he was beaten by AlphaGo, which was DeepMind's computer program, was watched by millions of people, literally in awe. The game of Go was considered, at that time, an intractable AI problem. That meant it was a problem that was not solvable. None of the previous methods that were used to play chess, for example, could be used, because trying to determine the next best move involved calculating more move possibilities than the number of atoms in the known universe. So the moment that AlphaGo beat Lee Sedol was when artificial intelligence came into popular view. Straight after that, in January 2017, the world's leaders went to Davos for the World Economic Forum's 4th Industrial Revolution. Really rolls off the tongue, right? The leaders left that meeting feeling inspired, but also feeling that they were being left behind and that every other country was going to get way ahead of them. Putin at that time said, "Whoever controls AI will be the leader of the known world." The UK also left Davos and immediately commissioned an independent review into AI, which was run by Dame Wendy Hall and Jerome Presenti. The report they wrote was called Growing the AI Industry in the UK. It's an incredible report. It's a little old now, but still worth a read. There's a huge amount of wisdom in there. The report that they wrote led to the creation of the Office for AI. which I was fortunate enough to be the founder of and then lead from 2018. The Office for AI accomplished a great deal. We invested, as you heard, £1 million in the AI ecosystem in the UK as part of the AI sector deal. We published the National AI Strategy and the AI Regulation White Paper. We created the UK's AI Council, which was filled with 25 AI luminaries from across the 4 nations of the UK. We created 5,000 AI conversion courses and 1,000 scholarships. We really set into motion a huge number of measurable and impactful policies. Most importantly, the Office for AI put in place the foundations for AI policymaking at the heart of the UK government. And I'm proud to say that the team I built is still there, and they're working hard. They are now joined by many more civil servants inside a dedicated department to ensure that the UK can get the most out of these frontier technologies whilst mitigating against the risk. The next defining moment of AI came in November 22. So everybody knows this day, because that was just over 2 years ago, literally just, when ChatGPT took the world by storm and became the moment when most of the world not only heard about AI, but also got a chance to play with it. So ChatGPT has widely been seen as the fastest growing consumer internet app of all time. After its launch, it notched an estimated 100 million users in 2 months. So as a comparator, Facebook took 4 years to hit 100 million users when it launched in 2004. ChatGPT is a large language model, and it's also referred to as generative AI. In the crudest way possible, large language models do a very, very powerful autocomplete. And given the incredible amount of data and the computing power that has gone into their training, this autocomplete is incredible. And the ability that it has built inside ChatGPT became the topic of conversation, and it became the trigger point in 22 for the movement around AI safety. November 23, so 1 year later, AI was coined Word of the Year. And then, straight after that, responsible AI took center stage. So what happened? The AI Safety Summit was held. This is the first AI Safety Summit in Bletchley Park in the UK. Nations from across all the continents came together, and they agreed to proactively manage the potential risks associated with the so-called frontier AI and ensure that such models are developed and deployed in a safe and responsible way. This was the first time ever that we had China and the US at the same table, and they both signed this declaration. So it was a real important moment. The US executive order on AI was also released. This was by President Biden. It was literally on the same day as the AI Safety Summit in November. The EU AI Act was enacted, and the consultation response for the UK's regulation white paper also came out. And since 23, there has already been another AI Safety Summit in Seoul, Korea. There's one in a month's time in Paris. 3 AI safety institutes have been created and funded. So there's one in the UK, one in the US, and literally yesterday, the one in Canada has been officially announced. And of course, huge amounts of money continue to be invested into AI, and there's huge amounts of expectation about the global returns from AI. So just to give you an example, in 2024, the market size for AI globally has increased to 184 billion US dollars, which is already 50 billion more than it was in 2023. So it is just skyrocketing. So this brings us nicely to where are we now? Well, I thought we should start with regulation, as I think this plays a very, very important role in how quickly we will see big industries adopting AI technologies. As I mentioned, the EU AI Act was approved in August of this year, and the EU Commission is talking about regulation coming into place very, very soon. The EU approach is risk-based, and it's also horizontal legislation, meaning that the law applies to all AI systems placed or used within the EU. There's also an extraterritorial nature to these regulations as well, which means actually it doesn't matter whether or not you're headquartered in the EU. If your applications are being used there, then the law applies to you. The EU claims that the majority of AI applications currently available in the EU single market, such as AI-enabled video games, spam filters, things like that, they're free to function as they are. Limited risk AI systems, so these are chatbots, not ChatGPT, that falls somewhere else, but chatbots. They're subject to lighter transparency obligations, and then high-risk systems are treated completely differently or completely prohibited. There is a lot of detail, hundreds of pages literally, on how systems might be classified as high risk and what providers of these types of systems need to do. I'm not going to get into that. I think you'll all thank me for that. What we do know, though, is that legislation is coming, and it will establish obligations for providers and users depending on the level of risk, and in some cases includes very heavy penalties for non-compliance with these rules. For companies with large global turnover, so think about like the large tech companies, these penalties can be in the billions of euros. So it is something to watch for. The UK, on the other hand, on the slide you'll see, has set out a principle-based approach with 5 core principles underpinning any AI regulation. These principles are safety, security, and robustness, appropriate transparency and explainability, fairness, accountability, and governance, contestability, and redress. The UK, differently to the EU, is taking a vertical approach rather than a horizontal one. This means that the UK is relying on its existing regulators and their deep sectoral expertise to tailor the implementation of the principles to specific contexts in which the AI applications are used. So there's also, as you may be well aware, there's a new government in the UK, and they've been talking about an AI bill. So things are evolving every day, and we're waiting to see what happens next in terms of regulation. So you might want to know which one of these 2 approaches is right. Is it horizontal or vertical? Is it risk-based or principle-based? In my opinion, probably neither. The answer is probably somewhere in the middle, which is always where the answer lies. And we've already seen, actually, these approaches coming closer together. So the UK is starting to look at having a centralized unit and is definitely facing these things from a risk perspective, and the EU is looking more and more to its existing regulators. So we also have the US and China, who have their own approaches, as well as many other countries in the world who are also looking at this space. Practically, we know that AI regulation is coming. Whether it'll be correct, aligned, well-timed, all remains to be seen. And staying across it is going to require dedicated teams within your corporations. Standards are also coming. I've stuck it in the center of this slide because it's really important. This is going to mean greater interoperability across countries, which is actually what everybody wants and would like. We have agreement today from the world that countries want to reap the benefits from these technologies and mitigate against the existential safety risks. But that agreement is far from countries agreeing on universal AI laws and regulations around these technologies. Meanwhile, adopting these technologies has been a lot slower than anyone expected, which I think will always be the case until we get the right regulations in place. So where exactly are we on the adoption curve across the world? The short answer, nowhere. Not really. What we do know is that AI technologies are pervasive, and they're infusing themselves across everything, in every sector, from transport to education and healthcare, from manufacturing to the creative industries and the services industry. You name the sector, and there's an app for that. Adoption of these technologies across sectors, though, is just beginning. I like to think of adoption going through 3 phases. So phase 1 is when each individual inside a company is using these technologies to make themselves more productive. So this is useful, and it causes very little disruption to the existing workflows at the company. Phase 2, so this is about making existing company workflows, services, or products better or more productive. So this is a little bit more work, but again, this is incremental improvements, but this time at company level. Phase 3. That let out for a second. So phase 3, this is where you really interrogate your data and you dive into what you can offer your customers. So this can be completely new products or services, and it could mean complete reorganization of your company. At the moment, very few, if any, company is actually at phase 3. The only companies who are actually considering new products and applications based on AI are the tech companies themselves. So having said all of that, even though productivity gains from adoption of AI have been slower than expected, a very recent study from McKinsey shows that around 3/4 of all non-tech companies have used ChatGPT at least once. That's 3/4 of all non-tech companies across the world have used ChatGPT at least once. For a technology that's just 2 years old, that is incredible uptake. Arguably, we are still not entirely sure of the most optimal ways to use large language models in most cases. We know they increase productivity in some areas, but the random nature of LLMs makes it a little tricky for firms to scale their usage across their entire industry. So this is going to delay productivity uptick, but given the speed of adoption and the speed of the learning curve, the potential gains are around the corner. A few other notable things about the present that I think you should be aware of before we start talking about the future. First of all, the advances in large language models, which were making an exponential increase, have slowed down much more than anyone expected. So companies are still throwing data and they're still throwing compute in terms of investment at these problems, but the speed of change has slowed or completely plateaued in some cases. So there's a big question of what that means, and it's actually enhanced or really kicked off the race between the US and China in earnest because they're taking different approaches to this issue. Second, today, everyone seems to be betting on agentic AI. So what is agentic AI and why is it the next big thing? Well, agentic AI is essentially an AI agent that works for each of us. So the idea is that you give your agent big, complicated tasks that require lots of different kinds of analysis and would usually take 2 or 3 days to do. And your agent goes off and completes this on your behalf. So imagine assigning your AI agent to find and book your next family holiday, or to figure out when and invite the entire company to an all-hands meeting, or even to determine and then buy all of your family's Christmas gifts. I mean, it's all very interesting. I think it's very interesting indeed. We should also be thinking about what that means to add billions of AI agents to the already crowded workspaces that we occupy today. So third, there is a real shift that we have seen in who is doing the research. So in the past, universities led the research. In fact, we went to university to do research, but that's no longer the case. Universities are still doing research, but more research is now happening at private commercial labs. Just to give you an example of the horsepower of private labs, the research funding for all the universities in the UK is less than that of Google's AI lab alone. So that is only one of the AI labs of the tech giants, and it exceeds the funding for all of the UK universities combined. Finally, many countries are starting to think about sovereign AI, asking themselves the question, where on the AI stack do we as a country want to be? And then considering things like, and considering the choices they have, meaning how much investment do we have, how much money do we want to throw into this, as well as what does this mean for the future of work, for the future of our society, and our culture. So with all of this in mind in terms of what's happening today, let's look at the future. What's coming next? Well, my short answer is, who knows? Nothing about AI is inevitable. I wish it was, but it's not. I can make best guesses at this, just like anyone, but I guarantee we will all be wrong. I'm going to try and answer some of the questions that were set at the top of the introduction, in order to address some of the things that I'm asked most often. So, what do children study in school? So today, 0.5% of the world's population, so less than 0.5% of the world's population, are developing cutting-edge technologies such as artificial intelligence. That is approximately 14 million men and a mere almost 4 million women across the entire world. And most of them, the majority of them, are in the US and China. That's not right. It's not representative of the diverse world that we live in. Now, that doesn't mean that I think all children should be computer scientists, engineers, or mathematicians. That we'd be in trouble. Children need to continue to study what they have interests in, because the diversity of thought is what makes humans powerful. Diversity of thought and discipline is what allows us to find AI solutions to the most challenging of problems. But our children must understand how technology is changing their profession and what that means for them. So they can't go into these professions blind. They have to realize that there are tools that are disrupting what we've known. Right, so will AI take over my job? Maybe, it depends. AI technologies really stand at the cusp of making huge swathes of jobs redundant, but they will also create a huge host of jobs we can't even imagine today. These are tools, they augment our abilities. They're not being created to take our jobs. So part of this decision and part of whether we walk into this space has to do with the corporations and the strategies they employ. Let's talk about some of the new jobs that might be created. For example, who would have thought that prompt engineering would be a vocation until ChatGPT came out 2 years ago? Now you have people who literally are paid to interact with ChatGPT on your behalf so that they can get this application to give you what you actually need. Upskilling your employees and thinking about the potential job displacement is a real consideration and should be part of your corporation's AI strategy, not least because transformational change has been proven to fail if you don't take your teams along with you. I had a really great quote, I heard it the other day on a podcast, where someone said, right now what we have is CEOs buying AI Ferraris when most of their people don't even have a driver's license. Right, so, will AI become sentient, all-thinking, all-knowing, and take over the world? The fear of this eventuality is what began the AI safety summits in Bletchley Park in November, and that have continued. It also is why there has been so much money, investment, into AI safety institutes and the creation of 3 of them across the world already. There's a group of people who think that the end of the world is coming at the hands of an all-powerful AI. They're being referred to as doomers. But responsibility is end-to-end. We have to consider the problems and limitations of these technologies today, but we also have to think about how we mitigate against any future problems that may arise by ensuring that we build safety and responsibility in from the outset. Arguing about whether problems of today or those of the future are more important, That's not productive. We have to work on all of it. And there are enough people in the world to cover the whole spectrum. So why choose between safety and ethics, or between regulation and security? Don't we want all of it? I'm an optimist when it comes to technology. For me, tech is the great leveler. AI technologies are incredibly powerful, and harnessed appropriately and aimed at the right things, such as science, they stand to help us solve some of the greatest challenges we have. So fusion technology, personalized medicine, non-invasive surgeries, sustainable agriculture, reversing climate change. Perhaps we will someday also have robots that can empty dishwashers, 'cause that will be helpful for me. But for now, we have to continue investing in responsible AI research. We have to ensure that the whole world is part of this conversation when it comes to getting the most out of these technologies and mitigating against the risks. And we have to work together to make the applications representative and useful for the challenges we actually face, rather than the ones that a handful of people think we have. A friend of mine and a colleague called Rachel Caldecott, she says, let's make AI work for 8 billion people rather than 8 billionaires. So what does this all mean for you and your organizations? 3 main things. Governance, how do you begin your AI journey, and a few challenges to be aware of. Firstly, internal governance. These are vital. Internal governance structures and company policies are hugely important to mitigate against institutional risks and the societal impact of adopting AI, especially while we wait for regulation that is coming. Each company needs to be aware of and have policies around the use of AI. Whether you want to admit it or not, these technologies are here to stay, and they're easy to access and use. So there very well might be some of your employees who are using them right now. And the shadow IT that creates in your organization can be scary and carries a high potential for reputational risk or worse. Ultimately, we're going to need a mix of internal company-driven governance structures as well as policies and formal regulation and standards to enjoy the benefits of these technologies and mitigate against the risks. So secondly, AI is not magic dust. I really wish it was. I'd sprinkle it everywhere, but it's not. These are tools that are there to help augment our own capabilities. Staying updated with the latest AI trends and technologies will be crucial in maintaining a competitive edge. So in an organization, creating a culture of innovation, encouraging forward-thinking mindset, and fostering an environment that embraces technological advancement is what each of us has to do to make sure that we're using the best digital tools that are available to us. AI can be made to make each individual more productive, make your business lines and the company processes more productive, or actually to create brand new and possibly much more suitable products. However much or little, though, that you want to use these technologies, you have to start by looking at your challenges. You have to ask yourself, what are our issues? What parts of the way we want to address these issues require technology? And then which ones of these technologies are any of them AI? And then you can decide whether you're going to build, buy, or partner. It's also important to remember that any AI mature company will need a responsible AI strategy on the agenda of the CEO. The buy-in and the support to make big changes will have to come from the top. The board and the CEO need to be behind these transformations, otherwise they stay at pilot status and they never deliver. Not to mention some of the big questions that can pop up when you start to go down this journey, such as what do you do with the productivity gains when you introduce AI? And what about the potential environmental impacts that you might face? These need careful considerations, and they need to be part of the strategy from the outset. Finally, you have to embrace the challenges, and there are a lot of those. I'll name a few. I'm just going to rattle them off. So there is use case identification, there's serious and global talent shortages, bias, transparency, accountability, dual use, the fast pace and the changing regulatory environment, not to mention the end-to-end transformational change and all the challenges that that brings with it. Okay, so I have been up here now speaking for almost 30 minutes. Allow me 1.5 more minutes to summarize my entire talk. AI has been around almost 70 years. Regulation and standards are coming, and the innovation, investment, and expectation around AI are continuing to grow every day. Although we haven't seen adoption at the levels expected yet, given the speed of adoption and the learning curve, the potential gains will come sooner rather than later. And remember, as much as we all wish they were, AI technologies are not magic dust. You cannot just add these technologies in isolation and hope everything will be great. It takes work, and there are steps that are necessary to achieve the expected results. Governance is important. People are probably already using these technologies in your organization, so make sure that you are aware and that there are policies and procedures in place to mitigate against the unintended consequences or the potential reputational risks. And let me leave you with this. Imagine that you get it right. What will you do with the productivity gains? How will you use them? Will you take them all as profit and have major layoffs? Will you redirect your workforce? Will you think differently about how you deliver your products and services? And what about the environmental impact of the technologies that you deploy? These are all things that you need to consider today within your strategies. These technologies are here, and they're not going anywhere. Thank you. Do we have time for Q&A?
Yes, ma'am, if you would like to ask a few questions?
Yeah. If
That would be
people
great.
have some questions, I think we have a few minutes for Q&A.
Yes, we have a hand going up. Can we have a microphone? Okay, there's a microphone there itself. Ma'am, you're next after that. Yes.
No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So you talked about large language modeling. Two questions there. I've read a lot that LLMs have a lot of bias in terms of gender, race, etc. What are the steps taken to be solved that? The second question allied to that is that it requires a lot of data. Where does the data reside, with the company or with the country? And the last question is that what are the alternatives to large language modeling? We're talking about small languages to get the same. So these are the questions.
Thank you. So if I just repeat the questions, the first one is about there was definitely one about data, there's definitely one about smaller languages, and the first one was about?
Large language modeling is showing some bias in terms of gender.
Bias.
Yeah?
Yes. So you're absolutely right. So just a couple of kind of precursors, I guess. Large language models crawl the internet. That means that they basically take all the data that the internet has. So they read everything that's ever been put on internet. They click on every link and read all of that. Every single company minute, university minute, anything that's ever been published on the internet, that's all been absorbed into large language models. As you know, if you've ever scrolled through the internet, not all of the data there is good. Not all of the data there is real. Not all of the data there is the kind of data we would want to train any model with. But that is how, at the moment, they are done. So this brings to question a lot of issues which are on the table right now around copyright and IP. Have people actually allowed this to happen? It absolutely has questions around bias. Is this data representative? The answer to that is no, right? Because there's a lot of the world whose data is not on the internet or has never been. And so we have this massive problem of the data not being representative of the people for whom these applications are being used, right? And so at the moment, if you're just, using ChatGPT to write an email, you can keep an eye on it. But if we get to the point where these applications are being used, where the results of those are going to affect you as humans in different places around the world, when we really want this data to be much more representative. So these are kind of open questions, and the answer is yes, there's a lot of bias. Are we doing something about it? Yes, the companies are putting safeguards, but they're not good enough yet. The question around data, I think I've answered. And then the third one around small languages, I think this is a really, really interesting one. So at the moment, the big language models that have come out from OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google, they're all English-based large language models. There are other models coming that do things slightly differently. For example, there's one in China, which is using different languages and using inferencing to do large language models in more than one language. Saudi Arabia as well has a large language model that they've created around translation using their own dialects. So these things are coming, but they don't at the moment exist across the world capturing all the languages that there are. But this is one of the powers that AI has, is that ability to allow people to translate from language to language. So if we can get it right, it'll be fantastic. At the moment, it's nowhere near representative. I think there was a lady over here who had her hand up.
We have the lady here. If the microphone can be given here. Excuse me. The lady, yes.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, this is Anvesha, I'm from Sundew. So you mentioned 3 stages where the companies are, where the associates are being productive using AI and then creating tools out of that, and there's a third stages. Do you see a pattern, a pattern in time on how this evolvements are happening from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3? And as you mentioned, there are really companies that are there in stage 3. So what do you think is the reason that there are very less number of companies that are there that in stage 3?
That's a great question. So the stages I was talking about are kind of for traditional sectors and traditional companies. I mean, I say traditional, but this is basically the companies that exist in our economies today, right? The ones that haven't built with AI at their core. And they will go through these phases. How quickly they go through the phases really depends on some of the things I was talking about. So is AI on the strategy? Do they have policies involved? Are they upskilling their employees? Are they taking them along this journey? All of those things matter in terms of how quickly they go. And also, whether or not AI actually makes sense for them, right? So if you are a company who is delivering logistics, etc., you have huge amounts of data. So actually interrogating that data and figuring out how to use it and what to do with it is something that's ripe for artificial intelligence. Whereas if you are a services and relationship-based company, you're going to see improvements around the edges, but that might not be a life-changing thing for that company, right? So it really depends on each company and who they are. In terms of phase 3, which was, you said, what are the things standing in the way? I think it's right now, there's an inertia in kind of industry. I think some of that is because of regulation and the lack of regulation. Lots of companies feel that without understanding kind of where the accountability lies and what's actually needed of them, the ask to move down this curve is too much. And so the adoption of AI is happening via the existing enterprise software that they bring into their company. So they might have Copilot licenses, for example, from Microsoft, and they might learn to use those to start off with. But in terms of actually looking at their business lines and that transformation that's required, it's rare right now.
Thank you.
I think one more question.
The last one, if I can ask the last one.
I think that will be the last one, yes.
Yes, one last one.
This is Subhashish from ITC. Basically, my question is related to AI impact on sustainability. So you
Sorry,
touched
I can.
AI impact on sustainability.
Yes.
So our theme this time also is sustainable disruption. Disruption we understood. Sustainability area, I am told that there are a lot of work which is happening in the European Union. They're coming with policies and things like that. The usage of GPU, NPU affecting the overall carbon footprinting. Also the gender bias you spoke about. And maybe the impact on livelihood. So all of these are going to have an impact, and we need to really look at in the lens of sustainability. So anything you want to speak about?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm going to take the two sides of that. So one around kind of sustainability of, in terms of environmental impact of AI, and then I'll talk about kind of sustainability in terms of actually keeping these technologies going in light of the diversity issues, et cetera, that we have. So if we take the environmental impact, this is brand new, right? So we've just started research into the environmental impact of AI, and it doesn't look good, right? So there's been a few bits of research now. It's questionable. I think more needs to be done to figure this out. In terms of the exact impact and how bad it is. But if we take some of the recent research, says that if, for example, if we look at water use, right, pure water use, because that's used to cool down data centers. Data centers are used to run the compute behind AI algorithms. So if you take one email, 100-word email generated by ChatGPT, that's 500 mils of water that's used for that. 100-word email written by ChatGPT. If you take 10% of the working population of the US and you say each of them writes one of these kinds of emails once a week, you've now used over 4 billion liters of water to cool down data centers, right? And now, so there's lots of people questioning this research. You can imagine who they might be, but they're, and saying this isn't correct, that's fine, but it's somewhere between those two things, and that's not good, right? And now we're just talking about water, not about the drain on electricity and other kinds of things. There's a flip side to that, which is actually using AI to solve some of these problems, and I talked about that, so reversing climate change or actually getting AI to help us do this. But the question is around the responsibility aspect, which is, I'm not going to use AI to solve the climate change problem if I'm burning the world in order to do it, right? So we have to think about kind of sustainable AI, which is, for the first time in a long time, we're back to thinking about how much storage space we use, how effective our software algorithms are, rather than just ignoring all of that and just making it go faster. We're back to research around actually how do we make this technology sustainable from the outset. And so I'm hopeful that is there. I advise on a Centre for Doctoral Training in the UK. There's a number of them, but one of them is looking at sustainable AI. So if you are interested in partnering with researchers who are looking at this today, that is an area. In terms of the diversity question, this is a massive problem, right? And it has been. It's endemic in tech and has been for many, many years. The number of women who participate in these technologies are much fewer than there are men. Now, the biggest problem with that is because it's so Western focused and there's a complete culture around this over in the West. So we've got 4 million women, 14 million men today. That is not necessarily what needs to happen in the future. And actually in the East, that stigma around women being in technology is a lot less in certain places. And so I think this is a challenge that we must all take on. And there are organizations who are working on this. One of them is called Technovation. I sit on the board of that. It's an Indian woman who started it. The company is headquartered in the Silicon Valley. And Technovation helps to upskill women and girls from underrepresented communities across the world. And they've started this thing called the AI Forward Alliance, where they are looking to move 25 million women into AI by 2030. And they just did a report called Women in AI, which talks about an untapped market of $200 billion that can be added to the world's economy by just getting more women into this sector.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for that answer. And I hope it has answered your question. And I'm sure all of you have a lot of questions for ma'am. We can ask that offline. But we'll have to get on. We'll request you to kindly remain on stage, ma'am.
Oh,
please remain on stage.
Oh, okay.
And I'll request Mr. Rajat Shubhra to kindly come on stage as well. And I will request Mr. Dhruva Mukherjee, CEO of the ABP Group, to kindly come forward to present mementos and felicitate both our guests. We'd like to thank Professor Sana Khareghani, Professor of Practice in AI at King's College, London, and former Head of UK Government Office for AI. Thank you very much, sir. We request Professor Sana and Mr. Rajat Shubhra to kindly take their seats in the auditorium. And ladies and gentlemen, we will be beginning with our power panel, which is indeed going to be very powerful because we are going to be talking about data globalization versus data localization. So we are going to be playing around with words and with a lot of different things, a lot of information. And this particular panel discussion, this power panel is power-packed because it has a lot of wonderful speakers, leaders of the industry who are going to actually capture your attention, keep you rooted to your chairs, and make you ask those 1001 questions. Just give us a minute to do the setup. And then we are really good to go for this beautifully power-packed panel on data globalization versus data localization.